Vancouver's downtown east side is Canada's ground zero in the plague of injection drug addiction. Its rates of substance abuse have led to catastrophic incidences of HIV infection, crime, and morbidity. Over the past decade, all levels of government have poured $1.5 billion into those 10 square kilometers in an effort to stanch the bleeding. The most controversial initiative of all has been Insite, a clinic providing addiction treatment, medical attention, and mental health counseling. Insite brings addicts off the streets and into the healthcare system, providing a medically supervised environment where they may inject themselves with narcotics. It is the only clinic of its kind in Canada. I empathize with the revulsion many Canadians feel at the use of public facilities to shelter drug use, and I understand the anxieties many parents have that the state is offering their children mixed messages on the probity of narcotics. But the overwhelming conclusion of scientific study is that Insite and other harm reduction programs reduce addiction, decrease overdose deaths, curb the spread of disease, and diminish drug-related violence. The federal government's campaign to shutter these programs is little more than an effort to purchase easy political popularity at the expense of a wretched and unpopular segment of society. It is unworthy of our country's higher responsibilities. I grew up in Toronto's Parkdale neighbourhood when it was most beset by drug abuse and its companion crimes. One warm summer afternoon, walking home from middle school, I literally tripped over the corpse of a young woman protruding from sacks of roadside garbage. It was a grotesque sight, but not unique. She was riddled with needle tracks, and in her final moments of life, her body had tried to evacuate its poisons by expelling all of its fluids. A final rictus of terror remained carved on her face. Even as a child, I understood that she had died alone, stripped of all dignity, and left to rot in the sun with the trash. But she wasn't trash. She was someone's daughter. She had been someone's little girl. And howsoever she had lived her life, she didn't deserve to die like that. Years later, as president of the Parkdale Community Health Centre, I saw firsthand the disgust, anger, and fear that harm reduction programs provoke. But I also saw that these programs provide the only thread of hope for too many of our neighbours trapped in the abyss of addiction. As a civilized nation, we cannot place our personal discomfort at the idea of safe injection sites ahead of the hard reality that they save lives. Despite consistent rebuffs from the courts and in defiance of pleas from the Canadian Medical Association, the federal government has announced that it intends to pursue its efforts to close Insite all the way to the Supreme Court. The government's decision is wrong medically, it is wrong morally, and it will be judged to be wrong legally. Because if that woman's death wouldn't be acceptable for my child, it shouldn't have to be acceptable for anyone's child. For The Agenda with Steve Paikin, I'm Akash Maharaj.